Hello friends, welcome to the Abrams Children's Books Fall-Winter 2021 Preview Fiction Edition. I'm Jenny Choi, Director of School and Library Marketing. Much to my own personal delight, and I hope yours as well, award-winning Métis author Cherie Dimanline is jumping back into the world of the Marrow Thieves. So prepare yourself for another engrossing, action-packed, deftly drawn read with Hunting by Stars. Years ago, when plagues and natural disasters killed millions of people, much of the world stopped dreaming. Without dreams, people are haunted, sick, mad, unable to rebuild. The government soon finds that the indigenous people of North America have retained their dreams, an ability rumored to be housed in the very marrow of their bones. Soon, residential schools pop up or are reopened across the land to bring in the dreamers and harvest their dreams. 17-year-old French lost his family to these schools and has spent the years since heading north with his newfound family, a group of other dreamers who, like him, are trying to build and thrive as a community. But then French wakes up in a pitch-black room, locked in and alone for the first time in years, and he knows immediately where he is and what it will take to escape. Meanwhile, out in the world, his found family searches for him and dodges new dangers, school recruiters, a blood cult, even the land itself. When their paths finally collide, French must decide how far he is willing to go and how many loved ones he is willing to betray in order to survive. What I love about this world is the wide array of indigenous people represented. Of this book, Cherie says, "I am from a specific community with a specific history and an ongoing culture. I cannot and do not speak for all of us. No one can. The fictional characters in these books come from a diversity of land, families, backgrounds, languages, teachings, and identities. I wrote it this way to include as many of us as I could, to show us together, resisting and holding one another close through a dark time, to reflect the readers who deserve to see themselves in print." And yes, Frenchie, Rose, McWans, and the rest of the crew, they're all living against this backdrop of colonization, residential and boarding schools, racism, capitalism, and the climate crisis. Yet amongst all these very important and very serious themes, Cherie crafts deep emotional resonance between these characters. The compelling character development and their relationships with one another really drew me in, and it's Cherie's hope that readers will ultimately come to see that Hunting by Stars is a story about love, about the retention and creation of new dreams, and about strength, even in the face of absolute terror and systemic attacks. This is a must for your TBR pile, along with the others you'll hear about next.
Hi everyone, I'm Maisie Chan. I'm the author of Danny Chung Sums It Up. It's a middle grade novel about 11-year-old Danny who lives above a Chinese takeaway with his parents, who work very hard. And he's really creative. He loves to draw comics and create new characters, but his parents want him to be studious and good at maths, which he isn't. One day, Danny gets a surprise visitor who changes his whole world. His whole world gets turned upside down. So the themes of the book, which I was trying to explore when I wrote it, I was trying to look at, sometimes our parents want us to be one thing, but we want to be another thing. That's quite common, isn't it? And also creativity. I wanted to kind of smash the model minority myth, which sometimes perceives Asians as really good at maths or science and becoming doctors and all this kind of stuff. And Danny doesn't want to do any of that. He wants to just draw comics. So it's kind of, that's the main thread of the story. And then the surprise visitor that comes, she is a bingo wizard. She's just so good at bingo. And so there's lots of fun bingo scenes with fruit. So the book was inspired by my friend's grandmother, who arrived in England aged 92. And she had never left her country before and she couldn't speak English. And I just wondered what she could do with her time. And I thought she could play bingo. So she didn't really play bingo, but I thought, you know, in my mind, she could go and play bingo and make lots of friends. So that is a big part of the book as well. And the book's also about friendship. It's about 11-year-old boys and how they navigate friendships and being in one group or being excluded from a group. And Danny has to choose between his friend Ravi and a cool, he thinks is a cool group of boys. So there's quite a lot of themes and things I wanted to explore in the book. So I do hope you enjoy reading Danny Chung Sums It Up, and do let me know how you get on. Bye.
Hi,
My name is Priya Hawk, and I'm the cartoonist behind Piece by Piece, the story of Nisrin's hijab. Piece by Piece starts in 2002 and is about a young Bangladeshi American teen named Nisrin Moniruzaman. Nisrin lives in Milwaukee, which is a suburb of Portland, Oregon in the United States. One day, while Nisrin and her friend Firuze are walking home from school, they're attacked by a white supremacist. After this, Nisrin decides that she wants to wear the headscarf, or hijab, and her family is really confused and upset by this. The story follows Nisrin as she deals with her family, friends, and school life while healing from the trauma of the attack and coming into her own as a person. Back in 2017, I wanted to write something for younger people that explained what life was like when I was their age, in the hopes that they would understand how we got here and that the racist ideas they are exposed to do not exist in a vacuum. I wanted them to know that they weren't alone. When I was Nisrin's age, I had no foundation of knowledge or understanding to deal with racism or my family's history, and that inspired this book. When I first got the idea for this story, before she even had a name, I started drawing Nisrin, her friends, and family. I did research on the time period and the subjects covered, and I looked up photos and other reference images. I wrote a detailed outline. Then I wrote the script. Then I started drawing the comic itself, really messy and loose. Then I drew each page neater and neater until I finally added color. This isn't the only way to make comics, or even the only way I make comics, but the structure is pretty much the same. You start with an idea, you turn it into a story with a beginning, middle, and end, you draw it, and then you make sure it's easy for people to understand.
Hi, I'm Brandon T. Snider, author of Rube Goldberg and His Amazing Machines. For those of you that don't know, Rube Goldberg is a famous cartoonist who is known for drawing weird and wildly complicated machines. And this series reimagines Rube as a neurotic, anxiety-ridden middle grader who is just coming into his new machine-making abilities. The guiding principles for the Rube Goldberg series are humor, heart, inclusivity, and invention. It's the story of a kid who is learning to get out of his own way. He has this amazing gift, but he doesn't know exactly what to do with it quite yet. He's developing it as the series goes along. He's filled with worries. He second guesses himself a lot, but ultimately his journey is about rising to the occasion to meet the moment, not just for himself, but for his friends and his community. Middle school was for me at least, a very weird time where things start making more sense, and at the same time they start making less sense and are very, very confusing. This series is about navigating all of that. It's about making these mistakes, growing from them, and coming out the other end with a new perspective. My favorite part of the whole book one is when Rube and his best friend Boob McNutt show up for the first day of 6th grade. Yes, Boob McNutt is his name. He is one of Rube Goldberg's creations from the comic strip back in the day. So Boob and Rube are sort of like this comedic duo, and they show up for school the first day, and they're met with Mike and Ike, who are also Rube Goldberg creations from the old comic book strips. They're twins, they're complete jerks, and they immediately come at Boob and start making fun of him, making fun of his name. Oh, hey Boob, how's your boob? And immediately Boob stops and is like, you had all summer to come up with new material, and that's what you went with? And then Boob proceeds to completely out-joke these two into the ground. He just decimates them. Him and Rube start throwing out the best boob-related jokes you've ever heard, and these two just run away screaming. Not exactly, but it just shows this really great moment of strength and like taking back this thing, this crazy name that he has with humor. And it's a great sort of defining moment about these two characters and their relationship. Friendship is a huge part of this series. The ups and downs, the miscommunications, the triumphs. And no matter what mistakes get made along the way, Rube and his friends lean on and learn from one another. And they make each other laugh a lot. There are a lot of very genuine LOLs in this series. So buckle up and welcome to the RUBEverse.
Hey there, it's Jordan Ifueko, and I'm so excited to tell you about the sequel to Raybearer, Redemptor. I think a lot of people who have read RUBE know that one of the main taglines was, "The only thing stronger than a wish is a purpose." But Redemptor explores what happens when you know your purpose, you know what you're supposed to do, or at least who you're supposed to be, but you're not quite sure how to balance what you know you're supposed to be with all of your shortcomings. I think a lot of adventures are about that coming of age where you find out who you are and what you want to do, but our stories don't end there. Figuring out how to live fully, embracing our heroism and our humanity within our newfound callings and purposes is a huge part of our lives. And when you have communities that love you but haven't gotten on the same page as you with all of your new callings and your epiphanies that you found, whether that's through social justice or through psychological healing, it can feel really isolating. What do you do when people liked the old version of you more? What do you do when they think you're being selfish for pursuing your new calling instead of having all of your identity wrapped up in that community that loves you? Redemptor explores all these things, but it also delves deeper into the rich fabric of the world, the empire of Eretzar. We see more festivals, we see traveling to different parts of Oluwan where we meet big lava monsters and uprisings of peasants who are taking back their agency. We see travels deep down into the underworld where Tarisai talks to death itself, personified through beasts. I put my whole heart into Redemptor. I feel like it's the summation of my whole journey as a writer and as a person so far, and I am so excited to share it with you.
Hi, I'm Terry Blass, and my new book, Lifetime Passes, with art by Claudia Aguirre, is out this fall. Lifetime Passes was inspired by my years living in Southern California and the devotion I saw people have for the local theme parks there, and how real these theme parks were to them. It was really interesting to witness. That combined with the fact that my grandparents lived in another country and I didn't get to see them very much. It got me thinking a lot about how the most important thing in our lives is our time, because that's something that we'll never get back. And my favorite part of the book is when Phyllis, this old woman, tells Jackie, this young girl, or rather asks her why she spends time with such awful people, meaning her teenage friends. And Jackie responds that it's better than being alone. And Phyllis tells her it's really not. That one day you're gonna wake up and you're gonna look in the mirror and you're gonna be old and you're gonna think about what you spent your life doing and who you spent your time with. And that is more important than, placating to people who don't really care about you. And I think that for me, that's the strongest part of the book, because it really changes Jackie and gets her thinking about what she should actually be spending her time on and what she should be doing. I think another great part in the book is when Phyllis sits Jackie down at Kingdom Adventure and tells her about her own personal history in Southern California, why she actually lives there, what brought her to Southern California, and that she actually has a connection to this theme park just like Jackie does. I think that for me, that moment really opens Jackie up to the idea that, if she gets to know someone that she may have disregarded because of their age or because of any other reason, that you might actually learn something that helps you grow as a person, that you might appreciate people for more than just what you see on the outside. And I'm very proud of that section and think that hopefully people will really enjoy it as well.
Hi there, I'm Ananth Hirsh.
And I'm Yuko Oda.
And together we're the authors of Pixels of You.
The two of us are collaborators who've been working together for over 10 years. We've won a Reuben and an Ignatz, and 2 of our past works have been nominated for Yalsas.
For this book, we teamed up with J.R. Doyle, who's a fantastic illustrator.
It's kind of like a near-future soft sci-fi story, but at its core, It's about the relationship between two rivals.
Yeah, and ultimately it's the story of two people who are seemingly incompatible, but they sort of bond over their shared experience.
Yeah, it's like a drama romance with some psychological elements.
I think 8 or 9 years ago I took up photography as a hobby because writing and doing comics sort of became my job and I needed a new outlet. I became a lot more aware of photographers on the street. And once when we were walking through Soho, I saw a South Asian woman doing street photography. And you see street photography and fashion photography happen a lot in Soho, but I'd never seen South Asian person or South Asian woman specifically behind the lens. And that got me thinking about, how does your perspective change depending on who's behind the lens? My original thought about the story when I started writing it was that these were two rivals who became closer and eventually became friends over the course of the book. But as I was writing, I think some of the chemistry kind of revealed itself and it seemed a little bit more complicated than that. But I didn't want to make the decision on my own. I kind of turned the script over to Yuko and JR because I wanted to get their unfiltered view without my comments,
Yeah, so he shared the manuscript with me and J.R. Doyle, who is the illustrator of the book, and we read it and we both immediately knew that this was absolutely a romance story. And going forward when we were collaborating, that's absolutely how we approached it together. The three of us are really, really big fans of complicated, messy people and complicated, messy relationships.
There are so many quiet moments in this book, but Jared Doyle is such an incredible artist that they're really able to bring a lot of meaning into these quiet moments. So yeah, we're super pumped. I hope you enjoy it.